Hi, so we move on to the final segment of the marketing session today. And the last two chapters focus on brand equity and brand management, which are key components of marketing. Having studied the segmentation and having studied our strategy, what is important is to understand what is brand equity. Now, this is not financial equity, this is not financial stocks, but this is brand equity. How do we measure brand equity? How do we create brand equity is something that we're going to be touching upon in this chapter, chapter 9. A brand management is different from a strategic brand management. And when we look at a strategic brand management, we have to identify, we need to plan, we need to measure, take corrective actions, or interpret the results. And obviously, all of this is done with an objective to grow the brand forward, to grow the brand in a manner that what it's supposed to be growing. So, most marketing functions, you have a marketing manager, as we spoke about earlier. You have somebody called as a brand manager, whose task is to manage the brand in terms of the product, place, price, promotion, packaging, with the objective to achieve the brand results and grow the brand forward. So, what is a brand? The five-letter word brand means anything and everything that you are using to identify yourself with the brand. So it could be the name of the brand, the acronym of the brand, the symbol of the brand, the signages, the colors, the designs. It could be all of them, it could be a combination of them, it could be one of them, which we are going to use to identify, to relate to associate with that particular brand, and that is what is going to help us distinguish between brand A versus brand B, basically help us distinguish ourselves from competition. uh, Whatever said and done, ultimately, like it or not, we are all brand conscious people nowadays. We carefully evaluate the brands that we want to associate with and continue our association with them, and reject brands that we don't want to associate with or have had a bad experience with. So, the role of brands, the consumer benefits is, what are the biggest benefits from the consumer's point of view? Reduces risk. If it's an accepted brand, it's always going to be accepted, and you don't have to sell the brand to the consumer. It helps in the decision making process because you exactly know what you're going to buy rather than flirt around between different brands, not knowing what you want to buy, create a confusion, and that confusion is not going to lead to doing purchasing whatever you intend to purchase. It helps you identify the source and the maker in terms of who is manufacturing, who is providing, and what are the sources of this particular brand. Is it made, is it assembled? That's why a lot of brands, for example televisions, for example, one of the drivers for purchase in television is where is it manufactured and where is it assembled, has a big impact on price. To the marketer, it creates loyalty because you are not going to recreate sales all the time or establish sales. Once your brand is liked, people are going to be loyal towards that brand, and therefore this loyalty will help you charge a price premium. You can charge a price premium in a manner that there'll be no questions asked. People are going to be willing to pay that price because they see benefit in that price. The value equation has already been created. Retailers will want to keep that product, and therefore it establishes barriers to entry. Not everybody wants to come in. You are a brand which is preferred, and your retailers want to keep your brand, and therefore it simplifies product handling also. Through copyright and intellectual property, you can also register the product features which remain unique to your products and your goods or your services, whatever you wish, whatever you're offering to your consumers. Scope of branding. It creates a brand is a brand in the minds of the consumer, and it helps you distinguish yourself from all the other brands that exist in the marketplace. So if there is a competition, if there is clutter, if there is immense number of brands in the market, then obviously you can distinguish brand A from brand B by positioning it, by scoping, by communicating what your brand is wanting to communicate. That is brand. What is brand equity? Equity is nothing else but the value that is perceived by your consumers because of the brand. The value is the value for money. You believe that this product is worth its price. You believe that this is your favorite brand. You believe that you want to buy this brand amongst the various competitor brands that are available to you. Consumer based brand equity. There are differences in consumers' response because people are aware of different brands, and because people are aware of different brands, they prefer different brands in terms of their choices, in terms of their preferences, in terms of what they think the brands are, and in terms of what they are going to exhibit their behavior towards the brand as. Brand promise, what the brand must be and do for consumers. Brand promise is extremely essential. You must promise what you are going to deliver. You must never over promise and under deliver. You'd rather under promise and over deliver. The biggest lacuna, the biggest problem is when there is a mismatch between brand promise and brand delivery. And if, for example, you're saying 100% satisfaction or customer satisfaction, then you cannot have even one customer unhappy, and therefore what you're promising is not in line with what you're delivering, because you have not all customers as happy or satisfied customers. Brand equity, there are various models that exist in the marketplace: the brand asset valuator, brand Z, renaissance model. The Let's see each one of them. Ultimately they are using the same brand equity measures, but brand asset valuator model uses two key components: the strength of the brand and the stature or the image of the brand. The strength of the brand is measured by the relevance of the brand, asked as a question on the questionnaire, saying how appropriate is this brand to you compared to others or competition. Brand differentiation is the brand's point of difference, which is this brand is different from competition, or is it same from competition, or is it worse from competition. So brand strength and brand image. Brand image or stature is basically a function of brand knowledge, which is awareness, and esteem, which is loyalty drivers. Is this your favorite brand? Would you recommend this to your friends? Can be questions that you can ask on the questionnaire and measure it. Universe of brand performance. Okay. Now, in this particular case, you have brand strength and brand stature. So they have relevance but no knowledge. So the ones that are to the left have only relevance but no awareness. So they are relevant but they are not aware because they cannot cut through the clutter. On the right hand side, you have brands which have high high relevance and high awareness. That's the ideal condition. So they are the brand leaders. Here you you cannot have, I mean, you have less relevance but you have more awareness of the brand. So they're not trying to able to build on relevance, but they are only focusing on awareness. And the last quadrant, talks about brands who have low awareness and low relevance, so they are probably the underperformers in the marketplace. How do you build your brand? You build your brand right from the bottom here, going up to bonding. So, presence is nothing else but awareness. Are people aware of your brand? Do people believe that this brand is relevant to you as an individual? Do people believe that you can deliver on the promise? Do, do people believe that this brand has an advantage over other brands? And lastly, do people relate to this brand? Do they believe this brand has empathy? Do they believe that this brand is something that they want to be related to, they want to be bonded to, and they can therefore differentiate between X brand versus Y? So that's more of a loyalty indicator. So it starts right at the platform of awareness, moving right up to uh, loyalty, or continued commitment towards the brand. Uh, all these are measurable. You can put metrics in place to be able to get information on all of this, to be able to then build the pyramid, build your equity model, saying what is the brand equity that you have for your particular brand and also for your competition. Never are you going to assume or measure anything for your brand in isolation. You must do it for competition brands as well, like it or not. Same thing. So that was a brand dynamics model. You have a brand resonance model, which starts with brand development, various stages on the brand development, which is what are you trying to communicate as far as your brand identity goes? What is the meaning of the brand to you? What does the brand mean to you? What are you going to do based on what the brand means to you? Are you going to go out and buy it, or are you going to go out and just get more information about it? What is your relationship with the brand? Are you regularly in touch with your brand, or only when you want to buy it, or one off, or probably never? That means you've used it once and then never gone back to it. Uh, the brand developed at this stage, and when you're developing the brand from stages 1 to 4, what goes behind it is you are aware of the brand identity through brand awareness. Deep broad brand awareness in terms of I am aware of the brand is able to cut through the clutter, and because the brand is able to cut through the clutter, it can move to the next stage of trial, which is what does the brand mean to you, what is the image of the brand, and what's the differentiation between the brand at that stage. Its feelings and judgments about the brand in terms of positive reactions, negative reactions, reactions that you have registered in the minds of your consumer. Intense active loyalty in terms of resonance, and what about which is relationship? Resonance is also in terms of loyalty or affinity or bonding that you have created with the particular brand. So all of this can be put into a brand measurement metrics. And when you put this into a brand measurement metrics, you are able to measure it on a regular basis. And when I say regular, FMCGs measure brand health, as it is called, which is brand awareness, brand usage, and brand image on a daily basis also, to be able to measure the impact of the communication campaigns that it has put in place. So you measure it on a daily basis, which is FMCGs. Your durables do it probably not on a daily basis, but say probably on a half yearly or an annual basis. Interestingly, services have also started to measure brand health, and this is mainly done on an annual basis in terms of awareness, usage, and image of the brand compared to competition. Various models are also available for brand equity to be seen, but the most popular model, if you ever want to read it and you can read it at leisure, is by Professor Kevin Keller, an Australian based professor. Professor Kevin Keller's model is very, very simple and easy to understand. It talks about basically what you know about the brand and what you translate into basically what you know, and how do you translate this information into brand purchase, into brand association, into brand loyalty for that particular brand. So when you build brand equity, guys, when you're building brand equity, you must take into account the secondary associations with the brand and the activities, which is the awareness as well as the image of the brand, translating into key branding elements such as this is my favorite brand. I'm willing to pay a price premium for the brand is something that you want to build onto brand equity. Again, measurable. Uh, Various aspects that define the brand, and they are anything and everything that go to the brand, right from the colors to the brand names to the logos to the symbols to the characters to the models, through the jingles or the music, through the packaging, through the signage, anything and everything that based on which helps you identify, helps you make the choice with that particular brand. And all these are elements that can be measured that help you in defining the brand. So brand builders are memorable, meaningful and likable. These are the choice criteria that you have. That in case of defensive, they are transferable, adaptable and protectable. So these are the criteria that you can build onto your questionnaire to be able to define a brand, to be able to define the elements of a brand that go in creating and measuring and defining brand equity. An, an extremely powerful concept, and I think you need to go back to your organizations and see how do you build your brands, or what emphasis are you doing to be able to build, reinforce, sustain your brand in the marketplace. So when you're developing brand elements, what is really really important is the name should be catchy, it should be easy to recall, the color should be recognized, it should give a nice description for your brand, and it should persuade people to go out and try your product or a service that is what you're offering. Some of the UAE brands that have really done well globally are brands such as Emirates Airlines, brands like Emaar Properties, brands like Etisalat, and they've really done well in terms of branding in the marketplace. There's a consulting company called as Interbrand, and Interbrand does a survey every year to identify the branding, the top brands. I think it does top 300 if I'm not mistaken. And the leading brands are McDonald's, followed by Coke, followed by Apple, IBM. They're definitely in the top 5 leading brands. Uh, when there are mergers and acquisitions that happen, there is a certain component in the mergers and acquisition fee, and that component is called as goodwill. Goodwill is nothing else but the brand equity that the brand has accumulated, that the brand has earned over this time period to be able to command that premium in the case of a mergers and acquisitions happening. Very important to understand how you're going to reach out to your customer, basically through positive referrals, basically through direct interactions with the companies, basically by observing what the behavior is and reaching out to them at their points of purchases. Secondary associations with the brands. Now, brands have all the name, tagline, colors are all primary associations. The secondary associations are with the events that you are sponsoring, the regions that you're present in, the characters that you have within your brand identity, and any models or celebrities that you have that are going to be used as ambassadors for your brand that help build association with your brand. So if your brand is an innovative brand, you cannot have a person who's established in the field for 20 years. You must come up with a new player, or you must come up with a new celebrity or a new individual who you can relate or associate with as an innovative brand. So your primary associations for the brand or the brand elements are complemented by your secondary associations to be able to create the brand value and to be able to create that brand equity that you want to create in the marketplace. This slide here talks about a secondary in a source of brand knowledge, and that can be a variety of sources, as you can see. From the people, you can talk about your own people or endorsers, which is right here. You can talk about events or things that are happening, which is third party endorsements, cause events. You can talk about places, country of origin. For example, in some cases, country of origin does matter when you want to purchase a product, especially in the cases of televisions. Channels that are being used, and in the case of extensions, whether you must leverage your mother brand, like you have Mirinda and Mirinda Citrus, Mirinda Apple, Mirinda Green. So in this case, you've leveraged the mother brand to be able to come up with extensions using that brand. Ingredients, alliances, and company, all these help you build uh, a brand. We had done a survey years ago for a company for a baby infant formula. This baby infant formula was given obviously to infants, but it was given through the mothers who would give it to the infants. Mothers would refuse to give the formula, saying, of course, we don't trust the formula, and therefore, why should we give it to the babies? We showed them the certificates from the ministry here and abroad, but that did not work. There was still a lot of skepticism in terms of this brand is not known, not identified, so therefore, why should I go ahead with the brand? In that particular case, what happened was we then said, in order to get this right, let's start disclosing the name of the brand. And we told everybody that this is from the house of Nestle's. The moment we said that this is from the house of Nestle's, it got a lot of attention from mothers. Mothers started using the brands on their infant products, on their infants, and these products were therefore accepted so they could try it on the infant. As a result of what happened is we can now see that when you masked the brand name, when you blinded it by saying no Nestle, people were not buying it. But the moment you said Nestle, people were getting into it because that is the trust that they had with the brand. And that is the bond that they had with the brand, which did well for the brand. That's the power of the brand in short. Internal branding. Our employees are said to be ambassadors of the organization. Now, if you are a good lot of employees, they're always going to talk positive about the organization. If there are bad experiences, employees are going to talk bad about the organization. And as it is directly proved, a dissatisfied employee will always lead to dissatisfied customers, and obviously vice versa. A satisfied employee will lead to a satisfied customer. Uh, Internal branding therefore comes from your staff within as well as your partners or your suppliers whom you have worked with. Many a times employees, I don't know, some of these website portals or job portals are asking you to rate or give your experiences if you worked with that organization in terms of helping others decide whether they should work with this organization or not work with this organization. There's a report that comes annually each year which talks about organizations to work for or good organizations to work for, and in there what we have is organizations such as A, B, C feature in the top 3 or top 5 organization. I think the title is Great Places to Work for or Work at, and it is an annual report or is an annual feature that comes out, especially in the UAE. I think a couple of years ago, the company which was stood very strong on this was The One Furniture Shop, and they came up very strong on a great place to work. People have brand communities also, and the classic example for brand communities is the Harley Davidson Club. You have members of the Harley Davidson Club whom you are a part of this group, and they share a lot of common things, and they post these common things, and it's a privilege to be a part of this club. Obviously the privilege goes with owning a Harley Davidson to then getting into this club. uh, there are brand communities also being created. These brand communities endorse the brand, ensure that the brand is communicating what the brand is supposed to be communicating by imbibing the brand values. Brand tracking or a brand audit or measuring brand equity, various aspects on a brand value chain, which can be sorry, various aspects in a brand value chain which can be used to measure the brand equity of the brand, obviously. So marketing program investment, if you have a certain campaign, then the key aspects that you will measure out of there is what did the program intend to do its target, and what it has actually done in terms of the results that have been achieved. What was the program supposed to do in terms of consistency, clarity of message, reinforcing, and therefore what was it going to do in terms of the consumer? Was your brand, or is the brand building awareness, building image, building attitudes, building bonding, attachment? What is the brand doing, reaching out to the customer? So your marketing program is a program multiplier. Your consumer mindset helps you multiply the customer mindset multiplier. Brand performance, is the brand strong in terms of market share? Is the brand strong in terms of pricing, so that customers are willing to pay a price premium, and therefore are you able to get a desired brand profitability out of the whole equation here, which obviously leads to a market multiplier, and all of this ultimately benefits to your shareholder, who is a key or an important stakeholder in the whole scheme of things. And once the shareholders commitment is high, obviously it reflects a very strong positive image onto the stock market, onto the price per earnings ratio, and onto market capitalization. So the value of your organization becomes significant or doubles itself with all the positivity that you get from the brand, from the customer, and from the marketing incentives or initiatives that have gone behind the brand. Interbrand, as we spoke about, you can look at the latest report, and this latest report is going to give you the top 3, 4, 5. I think gives you the 300 brands, and you can see which are in the top 5, what were their rankings this year, what are their rankings this year, and what were they the last year or the previous year to that. It's an annual feature. Interbrand, it has its own methodology, but what it looks at is it looks at two aspects, the financial as well as the perception measures. And the financial is basically nothing else but a mix of market capitalization and certain aspects of market share. And on the perception side, it looks like brand awareness and brand image to be able to give you a single composite number on brand value. Uh, Managing brand equity, very very important. You need to understand what is it that you have to do to your brand to be in line with what the brand is intended to do. So the brand objectives, the brand goals become extremely essential in the management, or in the measurement rather, of brand equity. Strategy for branding, what is your strategy going to be? Develop new brand elements. You want to develop, like you have Emirates and Fly Dubai, totally different branding strategies. You have Etihad and Air Arabia tie up for a reason. Low cost Etihad cannot name itself as a brand. You have Air Arabia being exploited for that. So in this case, you must come up with a new brand as opposed to name it the same. Apply existing branding elements from the group but your properties, and therefore you can leverage it from that particular group to be able to get the desired customer outcomes from day one, and you combine these elements to be able to win, reach out, and to create your brand equity with your target or market or target base. Uh, Brand strategy, you can very well decide parent brand. For example, you have Mirinda. Do you want to use that, or do you want to use something else to be able to reach out to your customers? So you have a line extension, or you have a category extension. So Honda, for a category extension, could go on to say we are into automobiles, we are into industrial equipments, and so on and so forth. But the mother brand here is Honda. Line extension is Tide, or you can have a fruit juice which says we are getting into fruit juices, fruit mixers, fruit blends, and so on and so forth. Branding decisions. Whether you want to name yourself as a brand. For example, when Emaar was branding, it was branding everything under the name of Emaar. So nobody was aware of the springs and the Arabian ranches and things of that kind. Everybody was aware of it as Emaar. Uh, the strategy then broke down to say we are going to advertise as Emaar, but we are also going to focus on advertising our respective properties, and the shift of focus for properties was properties and not corporate, which was Emaar properties. uh, you have to decide whether you must look at the corporate branding or whether you must look at your individual branding, and then you must look at whether you are advertising at the individual level or the sub brand level. What are you advertising at? A brand portfolio, like your investment portfolio, a brand portfolio is a set of all brands and brand lines of a firm offers in a particular category or market segment. So in the Airbus category, you have the Airbus A380, you have the Airbus 200, you have the various Airbus fleet to serve the different needs and requirements of the clients. You have the Land Cruiser and the Toyota and the Yaris and the Camry to have different segments that they are targeting, and therefore they are introducing brands in each of the segments. In carbonated soft drinks, you have cola, you have lemon lime, and you have orange to meet the different needs and requirements of people across the different segments for colas or for carbonated soft drinks. In the case of a Sony example, if you see the brand portfolio, you have in the computers, you have computer segment where it has the, of course, the desktop and the notebook. You have the digital home, you have the software that it offers, and you have all of this in the computer category. In the camera category also, Sony exists, and it has its presence with the different models there. Home televisions and theaters also, it has its equipments, portable electronics, movies and entertainments, and lastly games. So this is the portfolio of the brand, mother brand, or the company brand, or the brand Sony being used across these different categories. Brand roles. Your brand can be a cash cow, which means I have a high the industry is growing, and the market share can also be grown because I can do something with my brand. I am a premium brand, so I can exploit through niche marketing. I can penetrate the market with a low entry level in terms of who am I going to be targeting or flankers. I can just be arbit, and I can just meet the needs and requirements of people in a very arbit fashion. Brand extension improve the odds of new product success because you're exploiting the mother brand and you're using the mother brand to create that extension. So you have Cadbury's fruit and nut, Cadbury's hazelnut, Cadbury's dairy milk, and the mother brand in this case is Cadbury's, and you have various extensions that you are using for the brand. Yeah. no one strategy is good. It entirely depends on how you want to brand your product or service. If you have a strong mother brand, then it is really very essential that you exploit the mother brand to be able to leverage the brand in the minds of the consumer, and not come up with a totally new brand and keep it as a group with a brand and sub branding objectives in mind. So in summary, what we have done in this particular chapter is we have understood the importance of branding. We have understood what is brand equity, how can you measure it, and how can you manage it, and what decisions must you take in building your brand, may it be at the mother level, at the company level, may it be at the individual level, or may it be at the sub brand level. And very important to know how you're going to reach out with all these aspects of branding to your target market, and therefore appeal and achieve the targeted brand objectives what you are expected to achieve and manage through brand equity. A very exciting field, a very dynamic field is brand management. Why dynamic? Because consumer tastes and preferences differ. It's a competitive marketplace and becomes extremely challenging to achieve your brand objectives in a consistent, sustained manner, and hence very critical in the function of a marketing manager, especially in today's times. uh, Hope this importance has been passed on, and hope you realize the benefits of what does it take to create a good brand equity platform within your organizations as well. Thank you very much. Thank you.